stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the man from Leng. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, I am continuing my review of the player cards in the Pallid Mask, the fourth Mythos pack in the Path to Carcosa cycle. In this episode, I am looking at the rogue cards. There are spoilers throughout if you care about that sort of thing. If you enjoy what you hear, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. I love me some rogues, so let's see what the Pallid Mask has in store for them. The first rogue card in the pack is Watch This. It's a skill with willpower, combat, and agility skill icons and the gambit trait. It has the game text commit only to a skill test you are performing. As an additional cost to commit Watch This to a skill test, spend up to 3 resources. If you succeed by 1 or more, gain twice that many resources. Rogues excel at generating resource advantage with cards such as Burglary and Hot Streak from the core set and Dario Elamine from the Unspeakable Oath. However, the one thing those cards have in common is that you need to take actions to play and or trigger them. You need to spend at least 2 actions before you can start to profit from Burglary, 3 if you happen to be playing Dario Elamine. Rogue investigators need those resources to buy extra actions, generate skill bonuses using talents, or pay for expensive assets, but they have to sacrifice some tempo to do it. Sacrificing tempo to do anything in this game is always a bit of a risk, especially if you're playing solo. Enter Watch This. The ability to net 3 resources without spending one of your precious actions is incredible. I've been experimenting with a new Schizo tool deck, and this card has been absolutely terrific in that build. If I commit Watch This to the right skill test, Skids will get to take an extra action every turn for the next 3 turns, which is nothing short of amazing. I can't wait to tweak the deck to include Double or Nothing from the Dunwich Legacy Deluxe expansion for some truly disgusting resource generation. If I've done my math right, you should net 9 resources if you commit Watch This and Double or Nothing to a successful skill test. That's amazing considering Hot Streak will net you only 7. Of course, Watch This has the gambit trait, which means you need to risk up to 3 resources if you want the reward. And there is always a chance Watch This will blow up in your face, which would really suck. That would be a setback for sure. Fortunately, you only need to succeed by 1 or more rather than 2 or 3, which is the norm for rogue cards, it seems. Watch This is risky to play if you're planning on spending resources, so you'll probably want to commit it to an easy skill test that you have a good chance of passing comfortably anyway. If you're playing Schizo Tool, that means you're probably committing this to a combat or agility test, while Safina Russo and Wendy Adams will be on the lookout for willpower or agility tests. And Jenny Barnes, well, she just doesn't care. She can commit it to any test she wants. I really wish Watch This had an intellect skill icon, but that would probably be broken since you could commit Watch This to an investigate action on Burglary. You commit Double or Nothing to that, and you've got resources for days. I'm pretty enthusiastic about all the class skill cards introduced in this Mythos pack, and Watch This is no exception. This card is fantastic. Any investigator with resource issues and access to the rogue card pool is going to take a serious look at Watch This. I could certainly see some of the Dunwich investigators taking a shine to this card as well. It's that good. And it's certainly been working out well in the new Skids deck that I've been playing. The second rogue card in the pack is an upgrade for the 41 Derringer, an asset from the core set. This version of the 41 Derringer costs 2 experience points, 3 resources, and it has combat and agility skill icons. It has the item, weapon, firearm, and illicit traits. It enters play with 3 ammo, and it has the game text, spend 1 ammo, fight. You get +2 combat for this attack. If you succeed by 1 or more, this attack deals +1 damage. Once per turn, if you succeed by 3 or more, you may take an additional action this turn. The 41 Derringer takes up a hand slot. The level 041 Derringer often crops up in Jenny Barnes decks, but I think that has more to do with Jenny's deck building restrictions than the quality of the Derringer. Competition for those 5 out-of-class card slots is fierce, and players will often settle for playing the 41 Derringer to save those slots for talents and other goodies. It's not like players really have much of a choice. The level 0 weapons in the Rogue class aren't that great at the moment. Switchblade from the core set doesn't really have that much going for it, besides the fast keyword, and Knuckle Dusters are likely to get you killed unless you've got the combat skill value to back it up. The 41 Derringer is really the best of a bad lot. The level 241 Derringer is a modest improvement over its level 0 counterpart. It comes with an extra agility icon, which is helpful if your enemy management plan falls apart and you need to make a break for it. The 41 Derringer's attack will deal +1 damage if you succeed by 1 rather than succeed by 2, which should make its damage output a little more consistent. Obviously, succeeding by 1 is quite a bit easier than succeeding by 2. And the level 241 Derringer comes with an added bonus. If you succeed by 3 or more, you may take an additional action after this turn. After this one. Some players have been pretty excited by the prospect of taking an additional action each turn. I can't really blame them because generating action advantage is awesome, but succeed by 3, man, that's a tough sell. If you're playing the Midnight Masks, for example, your skill value needs to be 4 or even 5 above the difficulty of the skill test if you want to succeed by 3 with any sort of consistency. The enemies in that particular scenario have fight values ranging from 2 to 4, which means Skids and Jenny will need to commit at least a couple cards and resources to each skill test to guarantee at least 1 extra action each turn. Now, it might just work if you played the level 241 Derringer in conjunction with Hard Knocks from the core set and Sleight of Hand, an event from the Path to Carcosa Deluxe expansion. Playing the 41 Derringer with Sleight of Hand would save you an action and a couple of resources which you could then use to trigger Hard Knocks and improve the odds of taking an additional action while you unload the Derringer's ammo into an enemy. Even better, the 41 Derringer will return to your hand at the end of your turn, so you can do it all again on a subsequent turn. That doesn't sound too bad to me. However, I think it's important to realize that the extra action generated by the 41 Derringer isn't free. If you want to trigger it with any consistency, you're probably going to have to commit some resources and/or cards to the skill tests. And you'll have to decide for yourself whether that action is worth the investment. The other thing I think you've got to ask yourself is whether the level 241 Derringer is worth the experience points. For example, for the same price you could pick up the level 2 Switchblade from the Essex County Express Mythos pack. It's slightly cheaper, fast, and has the same damage bonus, although it deals +1 damage only if you succeed by 2 or more. A Switchblade doesn't run out of ammo, though, which is a big plus if you're planning on doing a lot of fighting. For the price of a couple 41 Derringers, you could pick yourself up a Chicago typewriter from the Lost in Time and Space Mythos pack. The typewriter comes with slightly more ammo and the same combat skill bonus, although you do have the option to boost it by spending additional actions. It also does consistently more damage. The typewriter costs more resources and takes up 2 hand slots, but you can play around that to some extent if you're using a card like Sleight of Hand. Personally, I'd gravitate toward the Chicago typewriter for the extra firepower, but as with anything in this game, it really depends on your build and how many experience points you earn during a scenario. I probably underrated the level 2 Switchblade when it was released in the Essex County Express Mythos pack, and I'm probably going to underrate the level 2 41 Derringer as well. I love the idea of generating an extra action, but it's really difficult to judge whether you'll be able to consistently succeed by 2 when there are so many factors at work, including the deck, the scenario, and the chaos bag. The only other card with the succeed by 3 mechanic is Opportunist from the core set, and it's been largely ignored by players. I think level 2 41 Derringer is better than that card, though. It does improve upon its level 0 counterpart, so I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to give a tentative thumbs up to the Derringer until I have a chance to test it in the field. The biggest issue, of course, is that succeed by 3, and that succeed by 3 tends to change over the course of a campaign, where the scenarios as well as the chaos bag, the modifiers tend to get a little more negative, so it gets a little harder to succeed by 3 as you progress through a campaign. But, that action is awfully nice to have, so I'm going to give the 41 Derringer a try and see how it works. Those are the rogue cards in the Pallid Mythos pack. I've already had a chance to play around with Watch This, and I'm a big fan of it. Rogues need a lot of resources to operate effectively, and Watch This can provide a pile of extra cash if you pass a skill test by 1 or more. Now, there is always the risk your gambit won't pay off, but it's relatively easy to ensure the odds are in your favor by committing Watch This to a safe skill test, or committing an extra card or two to the skill test just to make sure that you improve your odds of passing it. I'm not as enthusiastic about the level 2 41 Derringer, but I'm willing to cut it some slack until I've had a chance to put it through its paces. Cards that generate action advantage are usually quite strong, but succeeding by 3 doesn't come cheap. Ideally, you could use the 41 Derringer to dispatch weak enemies with low health to try to maximize the number of extra actions you generate. The trick, of course, is replicating that consistency in actual games, which is often easier said than done. That's going to do it for my review of the Rogue cards. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd appreciate it if you could leave me a thumbs up. It helps out the channel a great deal. Have you had a chance to play with Watch This or 41 Derringer in your Rogue decks? Let me know how it goes. I'm quite interested in hearing your thoughts on those cards. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to be notified of when I release future content. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromleng@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter @manfromleng. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.